Hi, welcome to the Glow Interviews. My name is Katie Oman. I am psychic, author, motivational speaker, and coach. The Glow Interviews is a place where we can meet some really amazing and inspiring people who are incredible at what they do. I know that through talking with them, we'll all be left feeling empowered and hopeful of a brighter tomorrow. All of the contact details for both myself and my featured guests are in the description box below. So please feel free to check that out if you'd like to reach out to either of us. My guest today is Alessandra, if I can say that again. My guest today is Alessandra Sagredo. She is the author of the upcoming book, Soulgasm, which is going to be released by John Hunt Publishers. Alessandra is an interdimensional healer who seeks to help people unify their body, mind, and soul. She studies shamanism, Qigong, counseling, hypnotherapy, and therapeutic touch. All of the work she does is both a provocative and practical approach to spirituality to help us embody our soul in every single way. And I am so overjoyed and excited to have this chance to speak with her today. So thank you so much for being here, Alessandra. I really appreciate it. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very excited to be here. This is an exciting experience to be able to share soulgasms with other people, with a new audience. So,
yeah. Fantastic. And I was so lucky to have the chance to have a sneak peek at the book. And
that's right.
It's wonderful. It's just, I know it's going to help so many people, and it's so different. I've read a lot of spiritual books over the years, and this is so fresh and it's so different. And I think it approaches it in such a wonderful way. So why don't you tell everybody what the book's about and what inspired you to write something like that?
So soulgasms is let me start with a brief definition of what a soulgasm is. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people confuse it with, because there is the connotation of orgasm attached to it. Everybody thinks it must be sexual, but it doesn't have to be sexual. Soulgasm is about a sensual experience of your soul self in the human form. So right now in this moment, we might be having a spiritual experience. I taught a sensuality course a couple of weeks ago. And we talked about how just feeling and rubbing your arms can be a spiritual experience if your soul is having that experience with you. That can lead to soulgasm. So anything that actually grounds you into your body and allows you to enjoy life is soulgasmic. So the way the book flows, the way I built it is to drive people through a pathway where I felt they would get the most out of the experience to be able to build on their own learning. So the first part of the book is Flirtation of the Cosmos, which is all about where we're actually discovering our intuitive nature and all of the energies, all the entities and ancestors that have been surrounding us our entire life. We actually start to become aware of them and to work with them. So that might be elements, anything that actually might speak to you. So that's the Flirtation of the Cosmos. From there, we go into Embodying the Soul. Embodying, stop me at any point in time if you would like.
No, it's fascinating. You carry on. It's so
I could talk for hours about this. Embodying the soul is all about really building a new relationship with your physical form. This is where you befriend your body, where you forgive yourself for how you've treated your body, and you forgive your body for anytime you felt your body betrayed you. This is where that healing happens. And from that, suddenly we start to realize that our physical form is our form that our soul has chosen, which means in this moment, we are experiencing life through our chosen vehicle for this experience. So that's a beautiful gift, I think, as well. And then from there, we move into the spiritual striptease. And during the spiritual striptease is where we actually start removing the layers of ourselves. So masks, think of things like religious dogmas and traditions that have been placed on us, even spiritual dogmas that may no longer tie into our current belief systems. This is where I'm trying to challenge people to actually look at themselves and go, this is maybe no longer mine, but this still is. So let's release that out, let go of everything that no longer serves me and only bring in those things that do. And from there, we've moved to the sublimely naked soul. And this is where we're creating a foundation for that spiritual striptease. So after the spiritual striptease, we don't want to just leave you feeling like I've done all this great work and I've exposed myself to the world. Now what? Now my friends are changing, my life, my relationships are changing. What do I do now? So the sublimely naked soul is actually about coming out confident in your sublimely naked soul, putting yourself out there as your authentic, truest self and really being proud of it. And then from there, we move into the Mistress of Mysticism, which is all about tapping into your feminine magic, healing your aspects with your child side, your teen side, your woman side, your crone side, all the different elements of the feminine, and really being able to tap into the power of that. There's a little bit of touching on ritual and those components, because that's my passion, is really in the mystic. And then the last section is soulgasms. So it's kind of a journey that I'm trying to take people through.
Sounds fascinating. Like I say, I was lucky enough to read it, and it blew my mind, really, because like you say, it's really spirituality. So much has been written about it, and I think almost to the point that it's a very saturated market at this point. And to find something new, a new voice with a new perspective, is so refreshing. And I think it's very timely, the book. I think that we needed something like this right now, you know?
I think so too. So I'm glad to hear you actually say that. Because, as a writer, we get very impassioned about what we're presenting to the world. And so it's nice to have that feedback. But I do feel like it's timely. I feel like it's time for people to actually start embracing themselves, and not just this false sense of self-love, but this actual deep acceptance of, I've chosen this form, I've chosen this life. And even a lot of the book, you asked me where the book actually came from. A lot of it came from my own experience of having to develop myself as a resilient human being. So from my childhood, I was raised in a very religious home, very, very strict upbringing. My parents were actually ministers. And I was so that played a role all the way through my life. And then I actually went through bankruptcy, I went through divorce, and I also went through brain cancer. And when I was diagnosed with brain cancer is when I actually picked the book back up and started writing it. And I finished it when I was in chemo. So I was writing while I was going through my chemo, and that really, I'm hoping people gain from this experience, is what I'm calling reading the book, a different sense of resilience for themselves. So they realize that bad things will happen to good people, but it's okay. It's all how we approach it, and we have the power within us to be able to find that nugget of power that's hidden within the pain.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, how, in that sense, if you wrote it while you were going through this awful transformative experience, which just must have been so, I call it like a tower moment in life, where everything just comes down, the rug's pulled from under you, it's like debilitating, to have something like soulgasms to reach out and to lean upon to some degree. How did that help you? How did that support you through that process?
It helped me heal. I believe the writing process actually played a huge role in actually helping me heal. It gave me something to hope for, something to strive for, something to believe in outside of just myself. And it almost ignited. And as you probably know, when you're a child and you've always had these connections to the spiritual side and you've heard different things whispering to you, when you open that side back up to you, it instantly ignites. And that's what happened is when I decided I'm going to go back to writing, it was my cancer experience, I believe, and I have a hard time still saying it, but I believe that it was a gift. It was a nudge for me to realign myself into the right path. And so that's why I believe I had gone off path chasing shiny objects that became very accessible to me, and I had become complacent about my spirituality and about what I was bringing out into the world. And I felt like it was a form of my guides kind of going, okay, you've got to get back here. And it definitely brought me back. So.
Which is wonderful. I can't remember who it is that writes about it. And I always say this, I never go and actually look, but there is an Eastern philosopher who said our mind is like 4 rooms. So we have our physical, our emotional, our mental, and our spiritual. And most people spend most of their time in 2 rooms. And there's one room that's kind of dusty and there's cobwebs and, and that for most people, that's their spiritual side. But to be whole, to be full as a human being, we have to spend equal time in all 4 rooms.
And that's the key. And I think that's the key. That's one of the things with soulgasm is it's about actually realizing you don't hate your body. You don't hate your mind. You start to embrace all aspects of yourself, because as soon as you remove those obstacles, that's when you allow the energy to be able to flow up through you and actually manifest out through you. That is when you can actually really create the life that you were meant to live.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think that going through the pandemic, and we're still to some degree going through it in different places in the world, do you think that this book is quite timely for what we've all been through as a collective? And do you think it's going to help us to kind of heal from what we've been through?
I do. And I'm going to be very flaky for a moment. And I'm going to say I purely think it is because it's the time that the book came out. So I believe it's timely for the time it was meant to be released. And I do think there's a lot of us out there who are tired of the same spiritual dogmas. And one of the things I like to bring up in the book is that I'm trying to also tip spiritual cows. So turn some things on their head and make you look at it a little bit differently. So I do think it's timely, and I think there'll be a lot of healing available to people if they pick up and apply some of the exercises.
Absolutely. I think it's quite timely that we're moving from a Piscean age to an Aquarian age as well. So the Piscean age, for people that don't know, is about money and greed and power and the self. And we're moving to the Aquarius stage, which is about the collective and about collaboration and about empathy. And I feel like getting spiritually naked is something that's really needed now more than ever. You know, that kind of, like you say, that stripping away of the labels and the fear, it needs to go, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, because it weighs us down and it covers us up. And then we're never, I always say to people, if you never allow anyone to actually see the true you, how can they ever love the true you? If you never actually expose yourself out to the world, you're going to die with no one having ever loved you, simply because you never allowed them to see who you were. Yeah. And that's part of the spiritual striptease, is being able to remove those layers. So you can love yourself and you can actually discover that the world can love you back for who you really are.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think the spiritual industry in itself is going through a shift right now? Do you feel that? Or is, because I'm aware of it. And I've spoken to a couple of other people who have been aware of the shift as well. I do think people are becoming more aware of things than perhaps they once were. We're asking more questions than we once were.
I think there's definitely a growth in the area of spirituality. I think people are starting to question things, and I think that's positive. I hope we continue to question all the way to the end. I think it's important for us to continue questioning everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to be a empowered, mature human having this spiritual experience, or a spiritual being having a human experience as it is, I think you always have to keep asking questions. I don't think that whenever you get to a point where you think you know everything and you've got it, that's when the universe proves to you that you don't know anything.
Exactly. Always remain curious. And that's a form of self-love as well, as just remaining curious about yourself. Like, who am I today? What do I feel like today? What do I like today? What do I not like today? What is driving me forward? Where's my passions today? That's all a form of self-love.
Absolutely. Because there's always more to discover, isn't there? There's always more to heal and process. And absolutely. Yeah. So how did the pandemic kind of affect you on a personal level? Was it a transformative experience for you?
The pandemic hit myself and my family in two very odd ways. I also have a marketing company, so I have a job on the side. I own a marketing company, and that was hit in the beginning for a little bit. We had a couple employees whose family members passed on, and my brother actually died last year, not from COVID, but I believe from the lack of social interaction. Like, he just hit such a low point that he passed last year. So there's definitely been some challenges, but honestly, the year before that, I had been going through chemo. So this last year it's been a bit of a breeze for us. I feel like it taught me so much of how to be able to be resilient. What are the things that you do when you get stressed? Like, what are the things that if I'm getting frustrated, or if I'm tired of being in the same space, I change my space. I've learned how to deal with it. And that, I think, is just part of the growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the key lessons that it's done for people is it made everybody slow down, and it's given us, we realized that we have to be patient for the things we want, because we live in a very instant gratification society, and it's like, you can't have what you want right now. You're going to have to wait, right? It's
true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I just, we're all kind of waiting to come out the other side at some point.
I think everyone is anxious, and we're a little bit too anxious. I think we have to honestly have to let it take its form and take its time, because it's a living virus. It's mutating. So yeah, absolutely. Of course. Yeah, it's been difficult, but we are hopeful for a brighter tomorrow always. We keep moving forward. Always. So what do you wish that you'd known when you started your journey that you know now? Which part of starting my journey? As an infant, as a child, I've been a spiritual seeker. I suppose it's however you resonate with that question. What do you think, you wish that there was something that you knew, that you know now, that when you started your spiritual journey, or when you were a child, or what is the thing that you wish that you had known? That within the darkest layers of ourselves, there's truth, and there's beauty, and there's power. And I think that we have to go into the shadows to be able to really discover those aspects. Something else I've discovered that I found kind of fascinating is that if you have different sides of yourself that are kind of competing for your attention, overlay them and find where the overlay is, because most likely in that overlay, in that center, that's where their center is. That's where your joy is. And so, I like that. I was like in MASH, you get the two pie charts almost with you overlay them, and you'll actually end up discovering, okay, that overlay, that's where my purpose, my passion could be. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I like to think about the shadow and the darkness, because I think a lot of spiritual people want to look up to the light, and which is wonderful, and I understand why.
Yes.
But it's almost like they don't want to go in to the soul, because it's dark and it's scary and it's murky, and they're worried about what they're going to find there. So it's easier to go up, right?
Exactly. And I think, well, that's one of the issues with spirituality right now, is everyone is only teaching about being light and love and going up. And the reality is we are a dichotomy of being. We are a combination of light and dark, and we need to be able to embrace that. Otherwise, we can't embrace it in the world. We'll always be scared of it. We'll live in fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And we came here to have a human experience.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And that's not always love and light and rainbows and unicorns. It's the
Exactly.
dirt, it's the murk,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And it's going through your shadow, like you say, is your greatest power. That's where the light is.
Well, and that's where the power is. I feel like your most challenging experiences in life, when you get through the pain and you embrace the learning and you do the acknowledge, accept, and appreciate of the process, when you get through there and you get to that golden nugget, I feel like that's where you're going to find some of your biggest bursts of power.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that more people start to realize that and not be afraid of their shadows. But again, I think it's a process. Not everybody gets there at the same time. And just because someone else seems to be rushing ahead, I think everybody's on their own journey at their own unfolding of their own time, right?
And there's no point in rushing ahead, because you'll probably just get yanked back anyway. So you might be going off in the wrong direction, and you don't want that to happen either. So.
But you just smack into a brick wall, which is,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what's been your hardest lesson so far? I used to, when I started these interviews, I used to say, what's been your biggest failure? But actually, I took a step back and realized I don't believe in failure. I think it's all a lesson. So what's been your hardest lesson that you've had to learn so far, and what did it teach you?
My hardest lesson was definitely, again, realizing that the awakening that my body is so invaluable and so important to my spirit, not just because it's allowing me to live, but all the experiences that I can have through it. That building of that relationship really ignited something differently within me. So being able to embody my own soul and being able to really embrace it and befriend it, that really changed things for me.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So without sounding flippant, was the cancer a catalyst for that? I was trying to kind of say it nicely, but I can't. I have to kind of go to this.
Say it.
I have to go there. That's what we're saying. So was that the catalyst, or was that something that happened before that point?
Was that the catalyst for that change? Yeah, the cancer was definitely the catalyst for that change, for the befriending of my body. It definitely changed, because now every day I do exercises in the morning where I smile at every organ. I go through my brain, I go to my heart, I go to my kidneys, and I spend time with my whole body, and I actually start to feel it smiling back at me. And now I've learned to do a process where I'm working. I always have my yoga mat rolled out behind me in case I just want to get on there and do some yoga. So I'm always trying to listen. And now that's what I mean. It's not just like I love my body. I'm actually trying to have a working conversation and relationship with it, which is very different than what I've had before.
I like that. I think it's very timely as well, what you were saying about mastering the feminine. And it's like, we live in a world that's very patriarchy based, that pushes through no matter how you're feeling. And I think if we're going to find balance, that listening to our body and being where we're at, I think is a really important part of that.
Yeah, it is. It's a very important part of it. It's important for our health. It's important for our children's health. It's important for the world we're trying to create. Yeah.
The world needs to catch up to that, because we still.
That's exactly it. Which is why we're
industry, right? We need yoga mats in offices. That's what we need.
Exactly. Well, that's what I have behind me, like I said.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't really know how that's going to happen, but maybe it's all for all of us to push for it to happen.
You never know. Meditation is becoming a part of corporate world. A lot of big organizations are using it. I don't know how appropriately they're using it, but they're using it. So that's a good start. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So if you could hop in a DeLorean with Marty McFly and the doc and travel back to any moment of your childhood, I'll let you pick. What would you say to your childhood self?
Oh, I would probably say, fuck him and just do it. That's what I would probably say. I'm sorry, but that's exactly what I would say. Just fuck him and just go for it, girl. Just do it. Believe in yourself and just do it.
What were you like as a child? What kind of girl were you?
I was pretty precocious. I was pretty out there. I'd be the one. I get raised in a very religious home. My parents were ministers, and like there was no dancing in the house. There was no alcohol or anything. Like no one touched anything like that. But I would spin around the room, so I was always kind of in movement, and I was pretty outgoing. I'm a little bit more introverted now, believe it or not, than I was then. So yeah, but I was also rebellious and.
Yeah. And yet you said that you would tell them to tell yourself to fuck it and go for it. So although you were this precocious, outgoing child, there was obviously still a lot of stuff on you, right?
Always held back, always slightly held back. And that's what I mean. Like, even for myself, one of my, if you ask me, what are your goals for the next year? Well, one of my goals would be to actually be able to just release myself out there, just splatter it onto the world and not care, just to watch what would happen. What would happen if we actually all just put ourselves out there without a care? I would love to see the kind of rainbows and colors we could create with that. So even as a child, I would still be telling myself that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that comes with a certain amount of maturity and life experience, though. I do think you come to a point where you realize that worrying about what other people think of you and what they're going to say about you is actually a massive block. And it's your life and you have to follow what makes you happy.
The challenge is that we can know that, but until we actually feel it and it locks that emotional change within us, that's the only time where we actually really can act on it strongly.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. And sadly, some people never get there, which is why, we have to keep pushing them in the right direction.
That's true. It's true. Nudge, nudge constantly. Yeah.
So who or what inspires you to be your best self every day?
I would say that's my husband, my partner, Armand. Yeah. He inspires me every day to be my best, always challenging me just in the right way, keeping me on. I always say he keeps me on track when I go off chasing shiny objects, when I'm drifted off to different directions. And he was with me during every negative experience. Like when I was in chemo, he stayed with me by my side every day. And he actually created little meditations for me that I could do while I was doing my medication. So.
Bless him. I do find that a lot of spiritual people tend to go to be with partners who are very grounded. It's like it's the river heart. It needs somebody to bring them back down.
Yes, yeah. We ground each other, and I think we pair each other up in the right ways. We ground in the right ways, not too much. Otherwise, I'd be like, no, I need to fly.
Absolutely, somebody who can ground you but let you spread your wings at the same time, right?
Maybe just kind of tether, and so you're floating up there like a balloon. Yeah.
And what does he think about what you do? Is he championing you? Does he think it's like amazing?
It's amazing. Yes. Yeah. He's my champion. He's my biggest fan, I would say.
Has he read the book? I just wasn't written down, but I'm curious. What did he think?
He loved it. Yeah, he loved it. He loved the poetry. He thought it was really great. Yeah. It was. He's grounded, but he's not. He's mystical and spiritual, but he's non-religious. He's an anti-theist. So
right.
Yeah.
Which helps, right? Because approaching this book, I think if you were not open to what it contains and open to the ideas within it, I think it could be something that's challenging, I would say.
And I have noticed that with a couple of the people who offer to be endorsement readers for me, if they're a little bit challenged by some of the concepts within there or just the approaches. So, it's not for everyone, but I'm hoping that people will give it a shot. If you want to develop your spirituality in a sensual way, in a way that actually brings you in touch with the earth and the world around you, this is one way of doing it. So
exactly. And being open-minded is not a bad thing. Your brain will not fall out. You know what I mean? It's like
exactly. That's I like that.
It's true. I mean, I've read so many books over the years, and not all of them resonate with me, not all of them, help me. But that's okay. You just put it down and move on to something else. It's when people get I think what I found in this day and age is a lot of people like to be upset. I like to be like, that offended me. That really offended me. And you're like, and so grow up and you gotta move on. It's like, it's not going to affect your life.
It's true. We've become a very sensitive grouping of society. It's a little bit sad, really, that we can't actually express our truths and have people have an intelligent dialogue around them instead of feeling just hurt or wounded.
Exactly. We don't always have to agree with one another, but we can at least have a conversation,
Exactly. And then maybe we'll both learn from it. So
Exactly. And it actually helps everybody to heal and to compromise and to find a route through if you're willing to sit down and listen to each other.
It's true. It's very true. Yeah, I agree with that.
So for people who are feeling quite lost and in the dark right now, what advice would you give them to help lift them up?
Well, one of my first things would be, if you can, move your body more more often, get into your body, just even turn on some music and just move. Just feel your physical form, because that can really it can change your space, it can change your energy, it can change your thought processes, it can just really shift you. So if you're stuck in something, then try to move yourself. Otherwise, there's all the standard concepts around meditation. That's always helpful. I think really discovering, again, I'm going back to the concept of sensuality. I think by bringing more sensuality into our daily lives, we discover there's so much beauty around us, whether it's a smell, light some incense, whether it's a candle, whether it's just looking at a tree or touching the bark on a tree. Get sensual with your surroundings, because that can really open up so much more beauty within your world.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a massive advocate of self-love. This was something that I've written about. And for me, sensuality was about, having clothes that made me feel good, having fabrics around me that were luxurious, eating foods that I enjoyed and that were good for me. And it was being aware of my senses and trying to bring beauty and kindness into everything that I did. Really helped me to connect back to myself.
Yes, yeah. And that's a huge part of self-love. That's a huge part of self-love. So that's beautiful.
Yeah. And I think we're so kind of very functionary as a society, so
we pass by so many beautiful moments. We're missing them because we're in a rush, or our phones are always on, and we're always looking down. And I can sometimes be doing that as well. I can be having a phone here and the TV on and the computer going, but we still have to take those moments just to be.
Oh yeah, and nature is great for that. Like, I am such a look at the moon type person, and look at that cloud and look at that sunset, and I am all that kind of person. And it really helps to not only ground me, but also to bring me back to myself as well.
Yes, it's true. It brings you back to your true nature. It brings you beyond all the clutter into your true self. So that's beautiful.
Yeah. So what's next for you on your journey?
Well, I am going to be, once the book comes out this year, my next stage will be creating I'm going to create some module courses to go with each part of the book, so that they can get the book and then they can also take the courses, so they can do Embodying the Soul as a 4-week course, Flirtation of the Cosmos as a 4-week course. I'm going to be breaking that out. And then after that, I've actually also started on my next book, which will be most likely called The Dawning of the Inner Queen. So,
ooh,
yeah.
Wow, that sounds fabulous.
Yeah.
I love that. It's quite a natural step for you, actually, because I noticed when you speak about the feminine and being as a woman, you kind of light up. So I think it's quite a natural step for you.
And I love that. One of my passions is I find that also in our world, we're restricting women's ability to be feminine. We almost have gone too far, and we slander people if they wear heels, or if they're too frilly, or they're too pink, or if they, and I'm hyper girly, and I'm also a very strong female. So I have no shame around that, but I would like to empower women to be able to find that within their feminine energy, there is power, and we don't have to be embarrassed. There's beauty in that power, and our power can be beautiful. So
Absolutely. Absolutely, I totally agree with that, because there's this weird, I do a lot of work with women as well, so I really understand that there's this weird energy. It's like we're either objectified and sexualized, or we feel that we should be like men and be more masculine. It's like women don't really know where to be right now. Right?
We don't know how to be women anymore. No. We need to reclaim it and define it for ourselves. And that is a project I would love to work on. So if you want to collaborate with me on that, I would love that. But I would I would love to be able to help people redefine what it means to be a woman, because I think that could really be empowering for everyone.
We'll talk afterwards. So. Everyone watching this just need to hear that conversation. So the last question, when I was looking for a title for these interviews, and the idea came to me last July, August time, when I was really low and everybody around me was really low and flat, and I thought as somebody who's a light worker, it was up to my job to bring some light. So I call them the glow interviews, to bring some light to the darkness. So in that vein, what lights you up and brings you joy every day?
Oh, when I get up in the morning, I go outside and I greet the world, and it literally is the nature. Like I go outside and I say, good morning, Mother Earth, good morning, Father Fire, good morning, water, good morning, air. And I just breathe it in. And nature brings me joy every day. Yeah.
Anything else, or is it just as simple as that?
Meditation, yoga, my partner, being able to write and exchange with people. I love discussing stuff like this. This has brought me a different level of joy today. So this definitely has.
Yeah, it was just
Cooking,
wonderful.
I love to bake.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't know about you, but I'm not a great fan of small talk. Like I can do it, but it doesn't. It just makes me want to go. Ugh. Like I want to have like in-depth conversations. I want to know what lights people up and who they really are. I don't want to really talk about the weather, and it's like.
It's true. I get that completely. I always find it a little bit more draining when you have to do small talk. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It just kind of leave you. You walk away. You kind of. It's like, oh, like you've done it, but it's not a great feeling. So to have like in-depth conversations, I think is something that we should look to do more of.
I agree.
Definitely.
Yeah, very fulfilling.
So you don't have a set publication date yet for Soulgasms, do you, to come out?
No, I don't yet. Actually, I'm 2 days away from getting my copy edited version. So I'm very excited for that.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is my first time going through this process. So it's very exciting. So.
Wonderful. So where can people find out about the book? Where can people find out about you, and obviously get some kind of idea when they can get their own copy?
They can go to soulgasms.ca. So that's SOULGASMS, soulgasms.ca. And that's where they can sign up to receive a copy of the book when it's released, or where they can gather more information around Soulgasms. And off that page, you can also find my Instagram and Facebook as well.
Fabulous. Everyone, I'll put all the links down here, so go and check her out. Honestly, I keep saying it a few times now, but as someone who's read the book, you need to get your hands on this book. It is really powerful, and it's really going to help to connect you back to yourself, but also to light you up, which is just a joy. So go and check her out. She's amazing. And I just thank you so much for doing this today. It's been such a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it, and I think we covered a lot of ground. So.
I do too. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really was, and I hope you guys watching it have got a lot out of it as well. And I thank you so much for watching, and send you lots of love. Stay safe, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, shoot, no, not that one. Oh no, there you go.